Welcome back to the Tracy Take. I am Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are doing the Buffalo Bills 7 round mock draft. We did a full 7 round draft, all 250 something picks, and today we're breaking down the Bills selections. Before we do that, be sure to like, subscribe, and also ring the bell to get notified when we create new Bills mock drafts. We've already done a 3 round mock draft. Be sure to go check that out after this video. It's a totally different scenario here, and we take a totally different approach, and we think it's very unique. I got a lot of good comments, and so we also have other 3 round and 7 round mock drafts planned leading up to the draft in April. Also, every Monday, we're doing a mock draft Monday. Ryan just came out. It's very fascinating. Go check that out. So be sure to like, subscribe, help us grow our channel. So quickly here to orient you a little bit on what you're looking at. So obviously the name in bold is going to be the Bill selection. We'll get that in a second. But we wanted to provide some context of who was taken off the board and who was still available at this selection. So you can see some other names as well to the right and which team selected them and where. So ended up going with Troy Franklin here in the receiving position. We ended up going on the 3 round mock draft. We went a totally different route. We went on the other side of the ball on a spot that a lot of free agents on that side of the ball. And a lot of people commented, no, they're going to go receive in the first round. So we went with that scenario here, and it worked out perfectly. I like Troy Franklin a lot. I think he's something different than what they have currently. Because if you look at Khalil Shakur, Stephon Diggs, they're almost at. Maybe I'm wrong in this, but because Stephon Diggs is still one of the better receivers in the league, but almost like that speedster possession kind of guys, like guys that they can lean on. I think Troy Franklin can really open up the field, but he also has that speedster underneath capabilities as well.
Yeah. So my thing with Stephon Diggs is he's an X receiver. He is that outside like number one receiver. He just does it, I think, then differently than in the traditional way. He's not the DeAndre Hopkins outside wide receiver. He wins more with speed and precision rather than like physicality. Not saying he can't be physical, but he just does it in a different way. And honestly, as much as Troy Franklin is different, because I think he's going to thrive more in a Z kind of off the line of scrimmage receiver role. I do see some similarities there where he also wins with speed and precision, and he takes the top off the defense, similar to a Gabe Davis, but again, just in a different way. And so I really like that because I think you look at this offense that they have developed. You have Stephon Diggs, who I will say is getting older. You haven't really seen that in his play yet, but again, I think he's 30 now, and I really think that you get a guy like Troy Franklin. He can be your deep threat. He can pull the safeties further off the line of scrimmage. Then you have all the room in the world for Khalil Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox, right? Those guys to kind of come in and compete. And then also you keep teams from stacking the box against James Cook and this running game. More running lanes open up for James Cook. And then also in scramble drills for Josh Allen, less guys are down by the line of scrimmage. So to me, I think going and getting a wide receiver like Troy Franklin would do a lot for this already extremely solid offense.
No, I agree. It's a lot of different ways they can go here, and so this was kind of the beginning of like a run of receivers that came off. So I think that they got a good one here with Troy Franklin. Let's move on though now to the next pick, and one of the things too, Ryan and I believe they have to address is going to be the secondary, especially the safety position as well. Just they're getting older. Jordan Poyer,
Micah Hyde.
Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde getting a little bit older. Sorry, total brain fart there. But I think don't get a guy like Javon Bullard. They can go and build around them while those guys are still able to play and are still competing at a top level as well, and to develop a guy like Javon Bullard as well, and hopefully can come in and provide some good minutes.
Yeah, definitely. And Javon Bullard is going to be a rangy kind of free safety. He was the one that delivered the hit on Marvin Harrison Jr. in the college football playoff last year. And so hard hitter, plays good in a lot of different scenarios. He was one of the leaders of that Georgia defense. And so I really think getting him here at 60 is good value. And he can come in and if Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde come back for one last ride, I think this would be a great depth piece. And he could learn from them and then take over in year 2. But I definitely think he could be a guy that can come in and take over in year 1. If they want to go with a little bit more of a traditional cornerback route, Kalen King from Penn State is there. He was at one point considered the top cornerback in this class. One of the top cornerbacks in this class. His play, I mean, he went up against Roman Wilson and Marvin Harrison Jr. in 2 of his last 3 games, I think, in college. And so that's always not going to go well when you go up against 2 probably top 50 receivers in this upcoming draft. But again, has the pedigree of playing at Penn State. I think he has the talent to play at the NFL level. And if they want to go with a more traditional cornerback route there, also, they did lose Tremaine Edmonds last year in free agency, going and getting another linebacker like Jeremiah Trotter. I think would be nice. I know they invested in the linebacking core last year, but it also did suffer a few injuries. Then also they have 6 defensive tackles on the roster from 2023. I think 5 of those 6 are hitting free agency, and Brandon Dorlus going and getting a guy or Braden Fisk as well that went the pick after. I think would be another smart pick as well.
Well, and I think that's a great segue to the 3rd round as well. And so as we do end up addressing their guy getting Mason Smith out of LSU, I believe, yeah. And so, as you said, only defense tackle right now that is on the contract for the Bills is Ed Oliver. 5 of the 6 are hitting free agency. But I think it's going to be a spot that even if they sign 3 of those guys, I think they're still going to want to address it. Now, where that's going to be, I don't know, but it's still something I think they need to keep improving that defensive line as a whole, especially then as well. If you go look at the teams that they're trying to compete against to finally win the Super Bowl, it's going to be a team like the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to have to keep causing Patrick Mahomes a lot of pressure. A team like Cincinnati Bengals, who I think are going to bounce back. That offensive line it has been improving, is going to keep improving. So they're going to need to be matching that physicality. A team like Baltimore as well. They have one of the better offensive lines in the league, and having a guy like Lamar Jackson, you gotta be able to try and slow him down anyway with the pressure up the middle. And all the other great teams, I think in the AFC is just absolutely loaded. So you need to make sure that you have good interior offensive linemen, but also defensive linemen as well.
Yeah.
I think a guy like Mason Smith come in and maybe rookie year just provide some good depth, but could develop into a consistent starter along Ed Oliver.
Yeah, and he is on the bigger side of defensive tackles. He's not a Devondre Sweat, where he's going to be 360 pounds, but I believe he's about 6'4", 320, and you're going to be more of your run-stuffing defensive tackle. But again, you need those guys in your repertoire, especially next to a guy like Ed Oliver, who's going to be a little lighter but a better pass rusher as well. So I like this pick. They definitely need to invest in the trenches and in this defense, just because, as we mentioned, they have a lot of free agents. They are, I think, at negative 30 million in cap.
It's up there.
Yeah, they have a pretty large number.
They're like bottom 5 last I checked.
Yeah, and so it's just going to be hard to go out and get free agents and kind of retain those guys simply just because of their cap space problems. So let's move on to their day 3 picks. They do have a litany of day 3 picks. Again, kind of sticking with this similar theme here, that I think 3 of their 4 edge rushers as well are hitting free agency. Let me rephrase that. Von Miller and Greg Rousseau are staying or are under contract. Von Miller has no guaranteed money left on his contract, and the rest of the guys are free agents like Leonard Floyd. So from there, with pick 129 in the 4th round, Johnny Dixon, the cornerback, Cedric Johnson, the edge rusher at round 5, JD Bertrand, another linebacker, Cody Schrader, running back, going to provide some depth there as well. And then one of my favorite names from this draft class is Malik Mustafa, the safety is in the 6th round as well. So starting off there, I think that they do a good job of just filling in positions of need with players. And I will say I would focus more on the positions rather than the names, simply because the Bills, rather than us filling in these players, the Bills are going to go find players that they feel fit their scheme better than what we will. So, and they also have a lot closer access to these players as well.
Thank you for clarifying that for our audience. Yeah.
Just these were maybe the top ones on our board, but whether they get Johnny Dixon or a different cornerback, I'm sure they're going to pick the one that fits their system best, rather than just the best cornerback on the board, if that makes sense.
And I know I'm just being a smart aleck, but yeah, it's like I would say their front 7, they need to re-sign a lot of defensive talent, but their front 7, I would say, is solid. They had one of the better defenses in the league last year, just in general, but age is going to be a concern. It's not as big a concern for the front 7, but the secondary seems like they're past couple of years they've been dealing with injuries, and then age is just that's just something that you have to prepare for. So I think here they've addressed the safety a couple of times. They get a good corner in Johnny Dixon as well. Then address the edge position with Cedric Johnson. I do then like the little quick, backup for James Cook, Cody Schrader as well out of Missouri. So
he had a good Senior Bowl.
He did have a good Senior Bowl. And so, and then they start off with the receiver, and then they end with the receiver, Jackson Jank. And so I think just adding some good value there.
You're not going to touch on the punter?
No, I don't think Bills want to talk about rookie punters that they drafted. So just historically. But that's neither here nor there. So that's about as much political talk, I think, as we'll get to, is that little joke that I mentioned right there. Yeah. But Bills in general, though, I think draft a lot of different ways they go. Very similar, I would say, like to the Cowboys. There's not too many areas where, they suck at this area. And so I think here you start off with Troy Franklin, and then you go get a good safety that you can go and develop, and then you go get a defense tackle. Those first 3 picks, I think you hit the areas immediately in those 3 picks that probably areas that they can improve on, but are definitely not weak. Like receiver, they're not weak, but they need to find a way to beat Kansas City. And I think they have that deep threat, can really open up that defense. It's going to open things up more, as you mentioned, for Stephon Diggs, Khalil Shakur, Dalton Kincaid as well. You got a 4-headed monster, and then you still got James Cook in the backfield. And who's our offensive coordinator? It's not Joe Brady. It's it is Joe Brady. Ken Dorsey was the old guy. Yeah. Joe Brady is the running offensive line mastermind. He fixed that offensive line.
Joe Brady must listen to this channel, because we had been calling for the Buffalo Bills to establish a solid run game for 2 years.
Yeah. Joe Brady, you're welcome on the podcast at any time, please.
You can send us our check in the mail.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, for this free advertisement.
So, all in all, I think this would be a really good draft for the Bills. I think they need to add a receiver at some point in this draft to come in and contribute. But I do think probably a lot of their picks will be on the defensive side of the ball. I know Bills fans might not agree with that. However, I just think you look at free agency alone and then their cap situation, they're not going to be able to add or retain probably most of these guys, honestly, in free agency. So going and getting guys to fill those roster spots in the draft is going to be essential. So let's go ahead and wrap up this video here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of this Buffalo Bills 7-round mock draft. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you do differently? And other than that, we will see you guys next time.